Hello and welcome back to Empathy at the Table. This is where we explore the intersection of emotionally intelligent negotiation with leadership and strategy. I'm your host, Tony Anagor, and today I'm pleased to welcome our guest, Francesca Sabatucci. She is the Procurement Director at Tetra Pak. Tetra Pak is a well-known company, well recognized in packaging and processing solutions for the food and beverages industry. Now, procurement has often been seen as a function which is solely based on cost cutting and contract negotiations. In this episode, Francesca completely changes this perception. She shares how procurement has evolved into more of a strategic, customer-centric focus. And we talk about things like the shifting role of procurement in the work function. We talk about the negotiation process, which in procurement, which is now more long-term, looking at long-term partnerships, not just price battles. It's a fantastic conversation. I've known Francesca for a few months now, and I know her to be true to her word, and she's really looking to create a paradigm shift in the way in which procurement is perceived and the way in which procurement is delivered. This is going to be a great conversation. Please join us on Empathy at the Table. Hello and welcome to another edition of Empathy at the Table. I'm here with a wonderful guest. Her name is Francesca Sabatucci, and she is the Procurement Director for the well-known company Tetra Pak. Francesca, welcome to Empathy at the Table.
Thank you, Tony. Happy to be here.
So, Francesca, to kick off, for people who wouldn't know who you are, and for maybe the very few people who may not have heard of Tetra Pak, would you like to just introduce yourself to our guests?
Yes, so I'm Francesca, Procurement Director in Tetra Pak. Tetra Pak is a company that is known for the packaging and processing business. So we provide the end-to-end solution to our customers that are typically in the food and beverage industry. And I take care about the procurement segment, so together with many colleagues, we take care about the development of the supplier base and the supply chain of Tetra Pak.
Good, excellent. Let's jump straight in. I've been waiting actually for a while to have somebody from procurement on our podcast, because the impression that many people have, and including me before I really got deep into the subject, the impression we had of procurement was that your job was really just to negotiate contracts and beat people down on price. And so suppliers are really scared of procurement, because when procurement step in, that means I'm going to end up with a bad deal. Number one, where do you think that reputation came from? And do you think it's true?
Thanks for asking, because it's a great opportunity for me representing procurement to really explain better the value that we bring in the company. I think this is a legacy from the past. In the past, in the corporates, sometimes the procurement team was really relegated in a way to support function, securing invoice payment, securing administrative tasks were executed. Over the years, and I would say also thanks to the COVID, the pandemic crisis, automation component crisis, I think the role of procurement has been really raised and lifted very up in the company. So now we see that procurement is really sitting in the so-called C-suite, where the decisions are taken. Because procurement is much more than creating contracts, signing contracts, or cutting the cost. That is sometimes the way it's perceived. It's really a function that can see the business, the value chain of what you deliver to customer from end to end. And we add a lot of value, not only in, of course, securing cost, the best cost, but also delivering the highest value to customers. It's about building a robust supplier base. It's about minimizing risks. So sometimes we like to imagine procurement leaders like, captain of ships. You need to know in which times you are navigating, sometimes turbulent times. You need to anticipate risks in the global ecosystem you operate in. You need to be able to have robust entities working with you, with your company, to make your company stronger. So we play a key role, a pivotal role in the companies.
So when you I know you've said in the past, I've seen you quoting, I've written it down. It said, great negotiators are able to understand their counterparts' needs and make sure that they exit with some of their goals achieved. Is this something that's a personal thing of yours, or is this what you believe that all negotiators within the procurement field should try and do?
To me, this is key when you approach negotiations. Strong negotiators are the best in understanding who they have in front of them, what are the goals of the person you have in front of you are negotiating with, what are their constraints, what are their ambition, their target. Because especially if you are building long-term partnership, and is the majority of the case procurement team, it's responsible to develop a supplier base, so to maintain collaboration and partnership on the long run, you need to enter into a negotiation where you know where the other needs to reach what goal as the other, and you need to create value for both. No other way that the negotiation can be successful. On to make the collaboration sustainable over time. There might be situations where a negotiation is very short term and you want to maximize the outcome for yourself, but are limited cases. The majority of the cases, it's a mutual value creation. Of course, you need to look into your needs, but you need to understand the person in front of you.
Yeah, that's always very important, and we always advocate that. Is you have to create value for both sides before capturing value, but you need to be just as aggressive and assertive as capturing value for yourself as you do for creating value for your counterpart. But I still want to go back to this idea of procurement, because I'm hoping in this podcast we can demystify what procurement is all about. I see a lot of procurement professionals really look at simply their role is just to save money, right? Save money for the company. And what I'm hearing with you is that since COVID, there's been a shift. Is this been a shift in your company, the company policy? Is this been a shift across industries in procurement, or is this just a personal thing?
I think it's much wider. In my company, this shift was clear and visible, but I would say, talking to many procurement leaders outside the company, it's very cross journey and transformation. And why? Because there are a number of challenges where procurement plays a key role. Of course, there is the cost, protection of company resources. This will be with procurement forever. But on the other side, you need to accelerate innovation, time to market, drive sustainability. There are a number of things, quality, that the customer expects, where procurement plays a key role. So it's always about balancing between, of course, finding the best effective and cost-cutting solution, but on the other side, delivering the max value to the customer. So it's much beyond only saving money.
Yeah, I think what I'm hearing from your approach, and I'd really like to explore whether this really is actually happening, because sometimes, because it's happening with you and your company, it almost feels like, well, if we're doing it, everyone must be doing it. And I'm not sure that's the case, but I'd really like to explore this. And if any procurement professionals are listening, I'd definitely like to invite them to contact us so we can have a further conversation. So this idea, what I'm hearing from you is that procurement professionals are now moving higher up the chain in terms of the decision making. So they're actually involved in the pricing decisions, but in the center of that, it's very customer centric. So what you've done is, it feels like you've shifted the focus from your competing priorities as a maybe procurement team, but now you're actually putting what the customer wants, what the business needs in order to drive value to the customer. So if you do that, how does that change the game? How does it change some of the KPIs that you as procurement professionals look for?
I think what you said, it's the key part of the transformation. Now the focus, it's really what the customer wants. So the first step is understanding the customer needs. We are much more integrated than in the past with the sales team, with the field force in the market, because we really need to understand what the customer needs, what is the competitive advantage for our customer that we can support them in developing to make them win, and therefore to grow our relationship with them. This has become, not only cost is there and will be there, so it's not changing in terms of priority, but there are other aspects. There is the sustainability agenda. Some of our customers want to be the leader in driving the sustainability, as we are doing, for example, in Tetra Pak. There is the aspect of the robustness of the supply chain, minimizing disruption. So there are a number of elements that you need to take into account to provide the best value to the customers. This required, of course, procurement team to equip ourselves with new skills, developing this hyper-awareness of the external environment, because you are the bridge between your company and the external entities. You are the one building the ecosystem. And of course, this ecosystem needs to be continuously developed, needs to evolve itself, this number of entities that are around your company. And you are in the middle between the customer, the entities, and your company. So there is a lot. The role has become much more a role of connection, a role of understanding of the other needs, and then developing meaningful strategies. We have been moving from internal KPI. We were measuring ourselves mainly on cost reduction, cost saving, cost avoidance. Now we keep those measures, but we are moving our department and we are measured on sales, for example, order intake. Why? Because we see our decision can be an enabler for the business growth. So we can really directly impact the sales of our company. So we have decided to move to this mindset where we are measured on business KPI. This has created a much better engagement with our business functions and a better understanding on what is needed to drive sales and what is our role of procurement into this challenge.
Yeah, and I know you've really been a champion of this movement, this idea of changing the KPIs from just procurement-based KPIs to KPIs based on the business function, the company, with a customer-centric approach. When you have to do stuff like this, you're judged on the hard numbers. You know, when we talk about sustainability, a lot of companies and individuals like it because it's a buzzword, but there needs to be, you know, a financial ROI attached to this. So your approach to a more holistic approach, collaborative approach to the way you look at procurement, do you actually have any results come out in terms of ROI? Have you seen an increase in sales or increase in margins by the way in which your approach?
This is exactly what we are seeing, that we can have a direct impact to the top line and the bottom line of the company. So of course we are in a journey. There are a number of things that we need to continue execute, but we see very measurable and tangible impact on the strategy that we are executing. It's both on accelerating time to market, selecting the right suppliers. It's also bringing, for example, new technology, new innovation, new capabilities that have a direct impact on sales and time to market. Quality, that it's a mantra for us, has been also measured over the years. We are improving all the quality indicators. So I think we have a mantra now that it's really measuring the impact of what we do, prioritizing the things that have the biggest impact for our customers. And we are securing that this is really followed, looking at precise and quantitative measures.
I'm going to put you on the spot here, right?
Okay.
And I'm going to ask you a question or give you a scenario. And this is something, it came up on LinkedIn. And I really hope a gentleman called Tony Shepard listens into this podcast because it was inspired by him. So what happens when you have like a large company working with a small supplier and it gets, you know, obviously passed over to procurement, and procurement start to stretch the payment terms, or they start to stretch the terms of the deal, knowing that the balance of power actually lies with them, and the small suppliers are kind of squeezed out. Do you see that happening in your industry? Has it ever happened to you? And you know, how do you deal with that power dynamic between you as a big company and some of the smaller suppliers that may need different terms in terms of payments and such like?
I think it's back to the mutual understanding concept that we had before. So, of course, there are different scenarios. You can have in front of you a small supplier that has a unique technology, something that gives you a competitive advantage, something that you really want to protect, then of course your approach to that relationship will be a bit different. You need to find a way to make this relationship sustainable. A big corporate, of course, can be very appealing for a small company because you offer maybe continuity of business, turnover. You can be a good also reputation element to bring their brand, to build their brand. So there are a number of things that you offer to the small company. On the other side, there might be certain indicators might put the company under pressure. So I think if this relationship, you need to protect it as a procurement team for a good reason, like unique technology, then it's you put in place long-term actions and discussion, and you find ways maybe to reduce the pressure, or maybe to put them on the same KPI, but maybe with a better visibility on what is going to come in terms of demand. This usually, for example, helps them to manage their working capital. It's another case if instead you deal with a small supplier, but you have many alternatives ahead of you. So then maybe you might be willing to reduce the dependency. So they will continue to have business with you, but maybe your KPI, your pressure will not create too much troubles on them because they have a limited dependency. So maybe you put in action different strategies.
Yeah.
It's all about knowing why you need them, why they need you, and then to develop the best plan for both.
I think that's fantastic. That's a really great answer. And in negotiation, we always try and shift the focus away from price and costing and towards value creation, right? If you have to kind of beat and battle down on price, it's kind of because maybe you haven't really seen the value. And you know, when I hear people wanting discounts or wanting a cheaper price, obviously there's benchmarking within the industry. You know, if people want to know why your price differs, but it's still an indication as to, well, just show me the value, right? And so what you're saying is, if there's real value in a relationship, independently of the size of the company, if there's real value that can be derived from a relationship, then it behoves both parties to work together to create a sustainable way of working.
Exactly. And I mean, it can also be that maybe you put in place a way to show them what opportunity you have had, because sometimes people believe that we cut costs because we like to reduce cost, but maybe there are customers that are under pressure. We have maybe opportunities of new business, but we need to be more competitive to win against competition. So maybe bringing the supplier on board into this wider business picture can help also them to see the opportunity. So maybe the discussion on cost is not here and now, but it's more on the opportunity that this negotiation can generate. It's again about creating value for both, because maybe this will bring new business to this company as well. So the more you make the picture, the context clear and broader, the better will be for the discussion to take place and to come to a positive outcome.
Yeah, that does bring us on to another area, transparency. Tell me about where you sit when it comes to how transparent can you be when you're negotiating prices, contracts with suppliers.
I mean, of course, it depends. Now you need to allow me to answer. It depends on the context, on the discussion, on how long the partnership that you're building is. Usually, the more open and transparent you can be both ways, the better, because there is not very much to hide. When you have a need that is really driven by the customer pressure, customer needs, there is not very much to hide. So the general philosophy that good negotiator do or apply in negotiation is really to be open and to explain the big picture and the big context. So in this scenario, I would say that transparency and genuinity pays off over time. Of course, there might be specific data that you are not willing to share, you are not able to share, but I've seen the most fruitful negotiation in my career, in my life, have been the ones where there was an open book approach from both sides and the willingness to drive things towards a direction that was a common goal.
Yeah.
That can be, let's capture that opportunity, that business opportunity together.
Let's talk about you as a negotiator. What kind of training have you had? Is this, are you natural? Were you as a child, were you always negotiating as a child, so therefore it's good? Tell us about the run-up to the Francesca we see today as a negotiator.
So I didn't see myself as a negotiator. Someone else gave me this suggestion many, many years ago when I was at the beginning of my career and I was offered a role in procurement. And I said, I don't like to sit in procurement and negotiate. But then I found myself quite comfortable. But at the end of the day, it's not negotiating, it's interacting with others, interacting with the external entities, because in procurement, you are really the eyes of the company outside. You are the bridge between the company and all the entities, can be university, consultancy company, suppliers. You are really the bridge, and this is very close to my nature. I like building bridges. I like connecting the two people. When it comes to good negotiator, of course, you need to have good influencing skills, and the awareness of myself over time have given me the feedback or the feeling that I'm good in this kind of things. So influencing, convincing people or giving people other perspective, it's something where I'm good at. But of course I've been developing this over time. So there is something that it's natural for me with my nature, my profile, let me say. But there are things that I've developed over time. Negotiating, requires a lot of practice. So I can tell you, in my first negotiation ever, I was not as, of course, effective as I could have been in one of my last negotiations. So it's a journey. It's a skill, a set of soft skills that you need to develop over time. I've done some trainings. Negotiation for value creation was one, where we were really deepening the difference between negotiation outcome based on one specific objective and negotiation based on mutual gains. And I've been really enjoying this kind of trainings. So there is a number of things that you can do to develop a good negotiation skill. And let me just say that negotiation skills are needed everywhere, not only in procurement. If you want to have a career in any role in the company, it might be good to have influencing skill, negotiating skills, because there are a lot of things that you can do if you are able to bring your perspective and other perspective together.
I mean, you're really, we're singing from the same hymn sheet here, because this is something that I've been on a crusade for many, many years, which is to let people understand that negotiation isn't a swear word. It's not something, it's actually something we do every day, either consciously or subconsciously. And so spending time on really working and developing the skills that you use on a regular basis can only be better. But I think we still have this negative connotation when we hear the word negotiation. But I think more and more people like you that talk the way you do, that share openly your approach to negotiation and show that it also gives great outcomes. The way you negotiate gives great outcomes. I think it helps the cause. I also wanted to ask you, when it comes to being a good negotiator, how do you know when you're good? Is it like after the first, second, third? What's the criteria that you use to decide whether you or anyone else is a good negotiator?
I mean, for sure, the outcome of your negotiation, whatever measure or impact are you looking for, it's a good signal of how good you have been in the negotiation. But to me, there is much beyond that. So if you are really a good negotiator, you most probably are someone who can build a relationship, as we were saying before. You are someone who can gain the trust of the person that is sitting in front of you. No matter if you are arguing and you have conflicting vision on everything, there are negotiations where you don't come to an agreement, but there is a clearly established mutual trust. And this, to me, is the signal of a good negotiator. When you have this feedback back from your counterpart. And of course, good negotiator, I mean, when I'm part of a negotiation, I start to see also beyond the verbal, body language, self-confidence. The more you practice, the more you develop this kind of skills in negotiation, and this is a big strength.
Yeah. Let's talk about just briefly about the dark side of negotiation, right? What about when you really need to be tough, when you need to put your foot down and you come across somebody who's maybe narcissistic in the way they negotiate? So you've kind of got to show your strong side. Maybe can you share some of your insights into how you can be assertive in a negotiation without being, a bit of an idiot about the way you do it?
Yeah, and it's again back to the point of trust, in my view. I have been in some very, very tough negotiation where, for example, we were discussing about terminating business with a company. There was an impact on people. There could have been an impact on the business continuation. So the discussion was very tough because without reaching an agreement, maybe the alternative was a worst case scenario for either us or the other company. Being tough doesn't mean that you have to be arrogant, you have to be rude. So you have to be sharp, clear, and let the other understand that alternatives are not there in this specific discussion, and explain the why. The more you bring them again into the big context, the more you can really let them understand. Maybe there is something happening that it's unevitable, or maybe there are decisions that have to be taken for a certain reason. So it's really important to be, again, transparent and to continue build the trust, even if you are having a very tough negotiation and discussion.
And what? See, I'm also thinking about the type of discussions internally, because one of the things I do a lot of work on is how we shift how we negotiate internally, because that's where it starts. So as a procurement professional, the first negotiation is internal, is how you actually organize the priorities of the company. And it starts there. And if you get that wrong, then the next set of negotiations with other stakeholders, you're literally kind of running uphill. And so how do you ensure that you are shaping the internal negotiations when you're working with internal stakeholders, ensuring that obviously you put the relationship, because you'll be working with people time and time again. How do you ensure the veracity of that relationship?
One of the key way, in my view, to make sure that you, even in tough discussion, you keep, the relationship growing, it's to take the company perspective. Because sometimes internal negotiations are about conflicting target or needs from different functions. And there are cases in which in procurement we are seen as the one, for example, that say, no, this is not possible. We cannot do things in this way because of compliance, because of quality risk and so on. So the best way, in my view, to maintain the relationship respected and alive is that you bring not your procurement view, but the company view. So this is going to have an impact for the company or for our customers if we do this direction. So it's not me telling you not to do something that you want, but it's us protecting our company or our customers. And this is a way to shift a bit the attention from you against me. Let's do something that brings the value. So maybe I use example from the past. Last time this happened caused this issue to our customers. So a way to bring facts to explain why you are saying no to someone in this moment.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, taking the focus away from the you, the me, and then focusing on the actual situation, and also to bring in precedents as well. I think that's very good to bring in some outside previous scenarios where we change the focus. So I'm also interested to just tap into your company culture, Tetra Pak. So I know the company very well. And there is a beautiful culture in Tetra Pak. There's a real great culture of, people actually care. There's a real investment in the people. There's an investment in the relationships with all stakeholders. As a procurement professional, when you meet with other procurement professionals around the world in different industries, what do you notice about other cultures?
Often we are seen as the one who leads in terms of processes, collaboration structure. So I'm always proud of my company when I interact with external companies and entities, because I find myself in sharing a lot of best practices, and feedback I get is that, oh, wow, I would love to have this tool in my company. I would like to have the same, I don't know, governance forum. Let me understand better, how do you do these things? So we are very well structured in the procurement organization. We are very well integrated in the process of the company, in the business decision making. So often we are seen as a best practice. This has been, I think, enabled by what you mentioned before, the culture of collaboration that we have in this company, and focus on our customer that has then, developed an attitude in every function in looking for the customer need rather than being silos oriented. So this was a bit the magic recipe to really come to an integrated function that is part of the business and that really delivers value beyond only savings and impacts.
And you play a key role in that, and I would love to see you sharing much more of your experience and your vision in terms of this more collaborative way to procurement, all making sure that the customer is in the center, and then the business obviously is serving the customer. So how do we do that? As putting aside our competing priorities, whether you're sales, whether you're finance, whether you're product, whether you're marketing, put those aside and let's focus on how we can deliver the absolute best to our customers. So I like this approach, and I think I have another question around if you could wave a magic wand, Francesca, and have maybe one major improvement that you saw across the world of procurement, what would you want to see?
Stronger interaction and connection among different procurement organizations, because there are a number of opportunities to get connected, but it's very often procurement function maybe has his own dynamic, his own environment, and I would really love to see much more integrated with the other companies, other experiences, because there is a lot we can share. I explained before, the hyper-awareness of the external environment is key in this role, and we could share forces even more than what we do today. So the connection with our procurement, other procurement colleagues would be great.
So, Francesca, this is the first time you've ever done a podcast. I know when I asked you, you were very nervous about doing it, and you've shared some wonderful experience. First of all, I'd like to give you one of these.
I think there were so many people listening.
I'd like to thank you very much for joining us. And for people who are really interested in the world of procurement and becoming better procurement specialists and negotiators, how can our listeners find you? And what is it that you're working on right now that's really exciting?
So I'm on LinkedIn, and I would be very happy. Of course, they will find me there, and I will be very happy to connect and to spread, the culture of how procurement it's a strategic function. Currently, I'm working on two sides. One is really how to develop high-performing teams. Also, when working remotely, we sit on global teams. So this is a challenge now for us as a leader to really make sure that the teams are working effectively in this kind of environment. And the second is how to develop even further the strategic role of procurement through category management. So those two things are the two things that keep me busy nowadays with some studies and reflections.
Francesca Sabatucci, I'd like to thank you for joining us on Empathy at the Table.
It was a pleasure.